So continuing on in my crypto company review, we come to Gibraltar, which I've been inundated with calls over the last couple of weeks because, as you know, Gibraltar come out and said that they were going to promulgate legislation that regulates ICOs. And so there's this great influx of interest that seemingly would make Gibraltar a place to incorporate, and I can tell you that's decidedly not. One of the features, right, of an offshore domicile is that the optics are such that the situs of any transaction, meaning like in the context of an ICO, where like the sale of that coin is taking place by contract, can be deemed to be really anywhere in the world or that offshore jurisdiction, right? And so when you're seeking to like avoid the regulation of various nations, that can be an option. But the reality is, like for instance, the Cayman Islands, which is 90-odd% of the world's hedge funds are there. Well, those hedge funds, when they do their offerings, typically exclude people from the Cayman Islands, right? And that's because they would have to adhere to the regulations, the securities laws of the Cayman Islands, and it, quite frankly, it's just probably not worth it. There's only 60,000 people there. It's not an extremely wealthy populace, right? So here comes Gibraltar and saying, we're going to regulate ICOs, but the reality is Gibraltar has very few people, and why do you need to actually offer your ICO to the people of Gibraltar to have it be successful and then subject yourself to regulation that you wouldn't get anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense, right? Why would you voluntarily subject yourself to regulation that by argument you don't have to, right? So I don't understand. I mean, I guess I appreciate them being progressive in the sense that like they're going to regulate something, but they're not going to regulate or be able to regulate offerings that are done outside of Gibraltar. It's outside their jurisdiction, as it would be for the United States, the UK, Canada, whatever, right? Whatever you sell outside of our country is not subject to that country's laws. So I don't see what the advantage of it. It's actually, I think it could backfire, right? I mean, I guess the optics are good if you don't understand it, but it doesn't make sense. Now, on top of that, Gibraltar has information sharing agreements. It's subject to a number of treaties regarding the enforcement of judgments, and its tax regime isn't that great. So at the end of the day, it's not a particularly great place when you compare it to a place like Nevis, to a place like the Cook Islands, to a place like even the Cayman Islands, where you have no tax, you have significant barriers for asset protection, and you don't have information sharing arrangements. So the Gibraltar thing, I don't get. I think it's like a lot of window dressing, much like Estonia, which I got some heat for when I got to that. But I think all in all, they're regulating something that would be a very minuscule market, and you'd be best to avoid it if you could, and you easily could, by simply incorporating somewhere else that's cheaper and affords you greater tax and asset protection protections, right? So that's it. I don't get the Gibraltar thing, but hey, listen, I guess there's probably an argument out there, but I don't think it's anything very tangible to make it an epicenter or reason to place your company there versus one of the more notable offshore jurisdictions. So Adam Tracy, check me out, et@tracyfirm.com. Email me if you have any questions. Later.